Godzilla vs. King Kong was a decent movie. I didn't know what to expect when I walked into the theater with my friends, but I actually found myself having a good time. Now, don't get me wrong. There were some issues with this movie. For example, I believe that there were too many human characters to keep track of. It didn't help that at least 90% of the characters had a tragic backstory consisting of a dead loved one. Like, couldn't the writers come up with something else? I get trying to make characters seem sympathetic, but I believe that this was a little excessive. The human characters themselves were pretty boring, with the only two that I actually liked being the conspiracy theory dude and the deaf girl. That's not to say that the other characters weren't good, or that the actors did a bad job, it's just that their performance didn't really stand out that much for me. My favorite character in this movie has to be Kong. Because he can't speak, all of his emotions have to be physically displayed through his actions. Kong, throughout the whole movie, just brought me and my friends immense joy. Enough so that we were constantly making jokes and remarks throughout the movie. One of my favorite scenes was probably the one where Kong found the remains of his people, and in that scene, nothing had to be said for it to leave an impact, which I appreciate. I also liked his new axe. My friends and I really had a good kick out of that, especially when we found out the axe was made of one of Godzilla's scales. Speaking of Godzilla, it was actually really cool finding out the reason he was attacking those facilities was because the humans replaced him as a protector. In this universe, the Titans fight each other to be on top, so when the humans made Mecha Godzilla, they put themselves into the role of a Titan, something that they weren't equipped for. I really love when the message turns into humans should never get in over their heads, because I'm down for anti-human propaganda. Don't be human, be monkey. The CGI itself was a little wonky in some places, but overall, it was fairly decent. Kong was pretty well animated, the fight scenes were pretty well animated, the choreography and the shots, while off in some places, were fairly entertaining, and Kong himself was fairly expressive through his movements and actions. The movie's pacing was alright. There were some places where it was off, but overall it was fine. Some of the jokes told in this movie were also pretty funny, like the deaf girl when she was signing coward and her, I guess, mother had told the dude that it meant brave, so later in the movie when he's like, I think you're pretty brave when he's signing coward, it was so, laughed so hard. If you want to see this movie for yourself, I suggest watching it with some friends, as this is the kind of movie that you shouldn't watch alone. I know that I would not have enjoyed myself as much as I had if I'd gone alone. But that's not saying that you can't enjoy this movie alone. And if you really do go out to see this movie for yourself, I suggest not expecting more than it gives you, as you might find yourself bored or disappointed. Again, this movie, it's decent. It's a fairly decent movie, but you shouldn't really take it as seriously as possible. That's not saying it's not a serious movie, it's more along the lines of, you'll just have an overall better experience if you go into this movie with monkey brain. Overall, I give this movie a solid 6 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for the monkey buns, though.